Hello, my name is Joanna Roper. I'm the Special Envoy for Gender Equality. I was appointed in April 2017, and although I'm an FCO appointment, I work to support all government departments in this field. I started my career in the Home Office and joined the Foreign Office in 2001. I've worked overseas in Tokyo, Beijing for DIT, and in Pakistan now 3 times. I've worked on foreign policy, immigration, national security and counter-terrorism, and was our first female consular and crisis director in the Foreign Office. I'm also chair of FCO Women, the Staff Association for Women in the FCO, which looks to support our members throughout every stage of their career, helping them to reach the peak of their potential. I was delighted to have been asked to speak at this year's Women in Leadership conference and had hoped to be standing there in person with you today. But as is common to many of us, plans have to change, and I'm sorry to not be with you. All around the world, women have made great strides in the last few decades. We see more women in business, in politics, law, the media, civil services, and more sectors. Many women have greater opportunities than ever before. They're living longer, have greater choice and freedom to make decisions affecting their lives than before. And in the 18 months I've been doing this job, I've met some incredibly impressive women in all walks of life. Today in this room, we see some of the female leadership of the civil service. Surely the time for special treatment from a special envoy is over. Well, no. Here are some global statistics. Today, there are 1.1 billion girls in the world, but over 60 million of those girls of school age don't go to school. Many more start school, but for a whole host of reasons are not able to complete their education. Just think of the lost potential that represents. We know that girls who complete their core schooling marry later, they have fewer children who themselves live longer, they are healthier and often have greater access to economic opportunity, which by extension makes their families, community and wider society more prosperous, stable and secure. Getting girls into education and helping them stay there really is where it starts. Unfortunately, we still see violence and abuse which destroys lives. Globally, 1 in 3 women is beaten or sexually abused in her lifetime. Over 70% of trafficked people are women and children. And around the world, women still face a lack of control over their decisions, their families, their lives and their bodies. In conflict mediation, there's evidence to indicate that when women play a meaningful role in peace and conflict negotiations, those negotiations have a 35% greater chance of succeeding and lasting for more than 15 years. The World Economic Forum estimates we could close the gender education gap in 13 years, but closing the economic gender gap will take over 200. That means that we, our daughters and our granddaughters, won't be able to take advantage of any efforts to close that gap. And there's a report you might have read by the McKinsey Research Institute in 2015, which indicated that between $12 and $28 trillion could be added to the global economy if women took an equivalent role as men. This doesn't just benefit women, it creates wealth for wider families, their communities, and breaking the poverty cycle. There is a moral case for action, and it's compelling. I travel a lot in my job, it's a global role, and I've been heartened by the fantastic efforts taking place at national, local and community level, and by what I have heard. The young woman in Egypt who said to me, "When I was young, I wanted to be a boy because they have freedom and can go out, they can play sport and choose what they do. Now I realise I want to be a strong girl." I saw for myself the Rohingya seeking refuge in camps in Bangladesh and how women and girls seek safe spaces to take a shower, to talk, to access the support they need after the horrific circumstances of their journey from Burma. Or the hungry appetite for learning I saw in schools in Swat in northern Pakistan, which 10 years ago had been destroyed by the Taliban. The students knew that education was vital to change their lives. So addressing these things is not only the right thing to do, it's also the smart thing to do. Let's turn our attention to the UK. It feels like this is quite a moment for women here. It's been a year since the Me Too allegations first became public. We've implemented groundbreaking legislation that requires organisations of 250 employees or more to measure, to publish and to tackle their gender pay gap. And it's thrown up some quite extraordinary results. And of course, this is the centenary of partial women's suffrage in the UK. And if you've been following the green, purple and white flag around the UK and overseas, you'll know the team's Civil Service Diversity and Inclusion Award for Gender Equality was well deserved. And last week, in celebration of this centenary, the UK hosted an unprecedented conference for women MPs of the world. Nearly 100 international women MPs sat on the benches of the chamber of the House of Commons and discussed the challenges facing women who stand for public office around the world. Despite the geographical spread, the challenges were similar. Overcoming cultural and social expectations that discourage women from standing, creating networks and funding to stand in the first place, addressing the violence and social media reactions when they do stand, and of course, balancing a busy day job with caring responsibilities. But the sense of pride and passion in what they do was tremendous. And I see that passion and commitment in the civil service colleagues that I meet too. The civil service is changing, it's becoming more representative of the population of the UK, and that can only be a good thing. That applies as much to the Foreign Office as it represents contemporary Britain overseas too. Our first female ambassador, Dame Anne Warburton, was appointed in 1976, but until 1973, women in the Foreign Office had to resign on getting married. And the world and the FCO has changed immeasurably in that time. Now we have 65 female heads of mission around the world, which is about 30%, including female ambassadors to NATO, to the United Nations, and our first BAME head of mission as our High Commissioner to Mozambique. Other initiatives: as part of National Inclusion Week, the FCO installed the Mirror Challenge. The installation looks at the top jobs in the office which have never been done by a woman and represents these jobs with a mirror, encouraging women to see themselves in these top jobs. Each time a role is done by a woman in the future, the mirror will be replaced by their picture. So it remembers our past, it celebrates our progress, and it challenges us to reflect better the society we serve. On recruitment, out of 359 officers across 5 recent recruitment campaigns, women staff made up 52%. And on flexible working, all jobs are now deemed flexible by default, with the onus on the hiring manager to make a business case to explain why a job cannot be done flexibly. And coming to you from Islamabad in Pakistan, I'm taking that flexible working to an intercontinental extreme. For FCO Women, we have mentoring, development activities, some great events as speakers, and we help HR develop policies to support the diversity of our workforce. There are still challenges. We grapple with dual careers, which is even harder when we have to work overseas. We're balancing work and home life, including caring responsibilities like many other women. And we need to make sure that women in the Foreign Office have the opportunity to reach their potential, making choices that work for them. The UK has come a long way. It might not be perfect, and we all know that there is more to do. But I am proud to be the first Special Envoy for Gender Equality for the UK, demonstrating this is something we take seriously, and to be working in a civil service that under the late Sir Jeremy Hayward really made strides in addressing diversity and inclusion within its workforce. And as women leaders in the civil service, we are ideally placed to make sure that this continues. I hope you've enjoyed your day. And in the words of FCO Women, know yourself, be yourself, and back yourself. Thank you.